Hello, I'm Richard Burton from the Richard Burton Art Centre on Bempton on the Yorkshire coast, the watercolourist, and today we're going to tackle water again, those wonderful effects of reflections on water. Are you ever frustrated with water when you paint? Do you paint and you find you just can't get water to look like water? It just doesn't work for you? Often that comes about because it's overworked. And to be honest, the easiest way of doing it is to break it into some simple steps. And I'm going to show you these simple steps. And it's putting these simple steps together will give you a wonderful reflective glass-like effect with water that will be absolutely magical. You've really just got to follow these simple steps. So let's put them together and let's go and have a go. However, before we start, I must not forget to mention we've been working on this for some time, and I've got this watercolour guide that we've put together. Whether you're starting watercolour for the first time or you're coming back to watercolour, this is a really useful guide. It's totally free. It's in the link below, so grab yourself a copy. But it's got 5 simple steps, which is about sort of breaking down watercolour into easy, manageable chunks and ideas that will just take you through the basics. So please take use of it. It's yours for free. Grab it and have a go and let me know how you get on with it. Okay, let's start with a sketch. We're conscious that we want to get a lot of water in here, so it's going to be quite a decent size of water. So let's get the horizon line. The horizon line to me at this stage is going to be the water line, which runs along the edge of the lake and the building. So get that in, and then from that I'm going to work out the areas of the woodland and the hills. So I've got that sort of basic parameters, and then concentrate. Most of the sketch area is going to be on the buildings and get that little bit of detail because that's going to be the focal point, and just keep the rest quite simple. Incidentally, if you like these type of videos that we're doing, please don't forget to like and subscribe because it'll get out to a wider audience. And also, if you've got any ideas for other videos, just put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So we start off with the sky, working from light to dark. Let's work from the top and work our way in. And the sky is just a very high level cloud, and I want a soft, diffused wash of yellow ochre to start that process. And then as that moves, that water surface moves to a damp and moist surface, I want to put some cloud, high level cloud, which is going to be cobalt blue and alizarin crimson, but mostly on the cobalt blue, and just gently drop that in and just allow it to diffuse. Now we're into the water. I want to get that water area, that initial wash, which is just going to have those soft ripples of the water, not the reflections, just the soft ripples. And that is a really important stage. And let's get that in with some cobalt blue and light red. Just diffuse that in gently onto a moist and damp surface. And then when that is settled in, I'm then going to mix some cobalt blue and alizarin crimson, hint of, and just drop that in just to give the impression of some gentle ripples, and just let it diffuse. Just let it diffuse, and those ripples will appear. Now we deal with the distant hills, and that is a case of having a blue-grey on the edges for the far distant hills, particularly on the left and on the right. which is going to be cobalt blue and light red. And then in the middle area, you've got a mixture of Prussian blue, yellow ochre, light red, which is going to be a range of colours which are going to go onto a diffused surface and then just simply let that dry. Added some purple and green grey next into the central hills, just to give some shape and distance, and also to give some shadow. That will just give them, in these distant hills, it gives an element of three-dimensional feel, but it also keeps it in the distance. Now we're going to start with the trees, get those areas in, put some diffused washes in. I'm going to mix a range of greens using Prussian blue, lemon yellow, yellow ochre, and drop those in just to give that variety of green in the mix. And once that is then towards a dry, I'm then going to mix a darker green. I'm going to drop that in, and that darker green is going to be Prussian blue, burnt sienna with a little bit of alizarin crimson, and we're going to vary those into the darks, and particularly concentrating darks around the boathouse and towards the lake water. Trees meet with the lake, just on that water's edge. That's going to be particularly dark, and just drop those in. And when it's on the dry, you can almost use a dry side brush just to give shape and texture to those darks. Now we tackle the boathouse. The boathouse is done in 2 stages. One with the lighter tones, the lighter grey, that's going to be the roof, and the greys on the side of the walls of the house and under the awnings where the boat's coming. Just drop that in, shape it a little bit with a small brush or with a number 4 brush. Just drop those in and then let that dry. Once that's dry, you can then come back to those and put your detailed darks in. Again, you'd layer those darks. Those darks are going to be ultramarine blue and light red, that sort of colours, and just drop those in to give that 3-dimensional feel to the central focal point, which is the boathouse. Next is the house reflections, which are just into the water. Now it's just going to be a light grey, a cobalt blue, light red. Just drop those in and just let that dry. I've just got those vertical lovely reflections that I just want to capture. I'm going to just drop those into the water. Okay, so now we're getting to the really crux of this paint, which is the reflections, those magical effects that will really catch the eye and make the painting. So the first thing is to prep up your palette, and I want to re-energize the blue-grey, which is in the foreground, and it's going to provide that diffused ripples, which is going to be cobalt blue and light red with a little bit of crimson. So we energize that. Then I'm going to have the water reflections, which are going to consist of 3 greens really. First is the light green, which I want to capture using Prussian blue, yellow ochre and lemon yellow. Mix that up, that'll give you a light green. And then I'm going to mix a darker green, which is going to be Prussian blue, yellow ochre, and that will provide that darker feel to the green with a little bit of burnt sienna in it as well, but just make it a darker green, not very dark, but it's going to be a mid-tone dark green. Have plenty of that ready made up, and then I'm going to go for a really strong dark, which you can drop into the reflections. That will be important. That's going to be Prussian blue, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna and alizarin crimson, and we're going to mix 2 pools of that, one with water and one that is really less water but much stronger. So you've got those already. So now we tackle the reflections, and the key first point is to wet the paper where the bulk of these reflections are, and then make a point of leaving the paper dry where you've got that broken edge to these reflections. Establish that, make sure that you've got that even cover of water, which is crucial. Then into that we're going to start with a lighter green. Drop the lighter green into play. Once you've got that lighter green in play, I'm also going to drop in the blue-grey working on the left hand side, drop that in and just bring that down into the dry. Once you get the dry, make sure you get these soft, delicate little ripples as you break away from the wet area into the dry, and just drop those in with the tip of the brush using a number 4 brush for those final ripples. And then we go back into the main area of the ripples of the water, the reflections, and we're going to move from the light green to the mid-tone darker green, and using the number 8 drop in these darker ripples and reflections, and just use vertical brush strokes into the water and just gradually build those up, and they will work on a diffused moist surface. And as I move forward from that, I then build up with a stronger dark, which is the first of the 2 darks, and drop in the darker marks. And again, try to make sure that you're putting in them in vertical strokes and build up that feeling of density to the water reflections. And then finish off with the final dark, which will go in to the heart of the reflections, and that will give you the bulk of the reflective area. You'll then move down the page into the wet reflections, meet the dry paper, and there you're going to get those delicate, broken, little reflective ripples, which are just going to be done with the number 4 brush, the smaller brush, and just delicately put those in onto the dry surface. And those will combine with the earlier ripples that we did at the very beginning, and the combination gives you a lovely reflective feel. Okay, so now we let the water dry and it's all settled in. The colours have harmonised, which is really important. Now I'm just going to get my blade. Just now I'm going to use that to reinforce some of the highlights, particularly like around the geese that are swimming across the front, or some of the highlights on the actual boathouse itself, just to give that, reinforce that little bit of focal point. And that should be about it. Okay, so there we have it, the finished painting. I'll put the mount around it. You've seen it all through the process, warts and all. This is the picture that we've done complete, and you've seen the plan, you've seen the steps that we took, the key elements, which breaking them down into simple steps, then you put them together, you get quite an effective picture, and I'm quite pleased with this. I think it's got that focal point, it's got that mood, it's got the distant hills, it's all really come together really well, and I'm really quite happy. So I think if you follow these steps, I think you'll enjoy this. It looks complicated, but honestly I think you'll enjoy it, and have a go, and let me know how you get on. And in the meantime, don't forget, we've got our free guide. I mentioned it at the beginning, it's still there. Grab yourself a copy, please do use it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It gets us picked up by the wider audience. I mean, we've now got over 2,000 subscribers, which is massive, and we're really grateful to you all for following and enjoying what we're doing. So now that all it leaves me to say now is to enjoy and keep painting.